Hello friends, welcome to the second session of Linux programming, and this presentation is basically a prerequisite to start learning Linux programming. From the next video onwards, we'll have our real course starting. So let's get it started. Now in this course, we'll try to see what is an operating system, how Windows operating system and Linux operating system is different. What do you mean by a open source and free source software? We'll try to see what is Linux and how it got evolved, a little theoretical and historical background. Then we'll see how Linux is different and what are the advantages it can give you. And obviously at the end, we'll have a full comparison of Windows and Linux. So let's get it started. What is an operating system? In every concept, we'll go forward and have multiple definitions, but it's very important to understand the meaning of the definitions and understand them so that at any given point of time, you can go forward and reproduce the definitions. So here we have got 4 set of definitions available. Now, the definitions of operating system also will be covered in very much in detail in your operating system course. But however, here we take the opportunity to review it for the first time. The definition 1 says, the software that supports a computer's basic functions, such as scheduling tasks, executing applications, and controlling peripherals. Now, the basic functions once again says scheduling a task is basically whenever you have to automate a specific operation, like scanning of your PC on the rebooting, or checking your disk, or installing some software after the restart, or something like that. Moreover, whatever applications you are executing, let it be Microsoft Office application, or a paintbrush application, or your Turbo C applications, or your Java applications, nothing will have been possible without the operating system. Moreover, whenever you go forward and try connecting any of your devices, like a CD-ROM, or your phone, or a mouse, or a hard disk, or a pen drive, whatever it is, those all comes under the component called peripheral, including the keyboard as well. Now, to manage and properly control those peripherals so that they can interact between each others, you need operating system. So that's the meaning of the very first definition. The same way, the second definition says an operating system is a collection of software that manages computer hardware resources and provide common services for computer programs. Now, the second definition is also very much like the first definition, which says that operating system is also nothing but a collection of very small pieces of program which collaboratively, combinedly serves a bigger purpose, like managing services and managing your computer hardware. Let's take a look at the very third definition. The third definition says the operating system is a virtual component of the operating system software in your computer system. Application programs usually requires an operating system to function. So now this one is again focusing on the application programs, like your antivirus, or like your what components, what projects, or any other softwares what you are basically using. Those all needs an operating system to get interacted to the hardware. And here they are also specifying the component that operating system is also a software which comes under a category called system software. Now, the fourth definition says operating system perform basic tasks such as recognizing input from the keyboard, sending output to the display screen, keeping track of files and directories on the disk, and controlling peripheral devices such as disk drives and printers. Now here, what is the most important part we have to focus on is, I can go to my computer, I can go to any of the specific drive like C drive or D drive. The moment I double click on the specific file, the file gets opened. The file, as we all know, actually is nothing but a collection of multiple zeros and ones, and actually gets stored in the hard disk or in the pen drive or in my external hard drives. But as operating system enables us to access it logically and read the content in our understandable versions instead of zeros and ones, we try to understand here, this is also a function of operating system specifically called memory management. Now, in our upcoming courses, operating system course, we'll also try to learn, we'll also understand what are the different functionalities our operating system provides. Out of that, definitely managing application programming, controlling hardware, memory management, those definitely comes as a part of that. Let's move forward and see what next we have. Now, this is one thing what we have to understand very carefully, because as you will be taking an operating system course and a Linux programming course both at the same semester, it's important to understand what are the type of operating systems we have, and this particular two courses, operating system course and Linux programming course, will help you to understand what are the operating systems. Starting with the list, there are total 8 different types. The first one says batch operating system. Now, what is a batch operating system? As we come to know that in a normal operating system, you can go forward and type a document, and at the same point of time, you can also listen to a music. Or you can copy 2 different files from 2 different locations to your hard disk. That means there are some operating systems where the applications or the jobs are getting performed at the same point of time. However, there are some operating systems which perform the task one after another. Sometimes they get grouped together to get performed. Now, this kind of operating systems which perform the job like a batch operating system one after another, or sometimes grouped if they are same type, then we'll classify that operating system as a batch operating system. The biggest example of batch operating system are the mainframe computers, where all the users supposed to submit their jobs one after another, or the programs, and based on the sharing methodology used in mainframe, one after another the jobs will be picked up and will be executed. Coming further, we have another options called distributed operating system, where the operating systems can be batch processing or multiple processing at the same point of time. But however, the operating system will be a group of multiple different computer systems, whereas each and every computer system will collaborate together to serve a single operation. There are multiple advantages and disadvantages of distributed operating system. Where talk about the advantages, it can definitely speed up your operation performances. If I quickly take an opportunity to go forward and try to figure out how does that actually works, what we basically have over here is we have multiple small computers, and those particular computers are connected to each other. They can run a same operating system or they can run a different operating system. Now at a single point of time, when a job is actually submitted to one single computer, that particular computer may not serve the job by itself alone. The same task can also be shared among multiple different computers. So the hardware is connected to each and every computer, like the processor and the hard disk, can also serve the same purpose. So that basically talks about what is a distributed operating system. The second factor what we have is network operating system, where we'll be having one big server available at some given point of time, and then we can have multiple small computing devices which will go forward and get connected to the server. Now the server system will run an operating system for sure. However, the client computers may or may not have their own operating systems. In a situation where the client computers do not have their own operating system, will directly connect to the server and will be sharing the server operating system and the resources to perform their operations, to perform their task. In the second situation where this particular operating systems, client computers, do have their operating system of their own, the user will get two different situations where the user either can get connected to the server and perform their operations. Second, they can get connected to their local machine and perform the operations. In the first situation where they choose to get connected to the server and perform their operations, the hardware resources of the local systems will be utilized and the files and the documents will be stored on the servers. And here this particular server will work as a domain controller or a domain server. Pretty much the same situation what you have already used in your lab, where you get connected to the variety end domain. Followed by in the second situation where this client choose to perform their own or automatic, the server, the data and everything will get stored in their local systems. And for all their tasks, they will be using their local computers. Third and the next category of ours, we call it network operating system. It's called a real-time or embedded operating system. So whatever the microchips we can see, or there are multiple applications of that. If you're not really very keen about electronics devices, you might not realize. But however, the modem what you are using in your home, or the set-top box what you are using in your home, or sometimes if you have an automatic device which can turn off and turn on your lights and fans and ACs in your home, those all run on a specific operating system called Arduino. And those operating systems are not really a full-fledged operating system. They actually come forward and do a very minimum operations. So the operating systems are actually customized as per your needs. Next comes, together we'd like to take it up, single user, multi-user, monotasking and multitasking operating system. There are some operating systems where multiple users at the same point of time can get connected and perform their task by sharing the operating system resources and the hardware. And there are some modes of the operating systems where a single user will get connected and perform the task. Any operating system which has got a multi-user or a network capabilities, they can be used for multi-user operating systems. Now there are some operating systems which are monotasking, going back long back in in the year of 1998, we had Windows 98, Windows 95, 98, and those are the first set of operating systems which started doing the multitasking. And before that, the disk operating systems, or the prior to that, whatever operating systems we had, those are monotasking operating systems. What does that mean? That means the thing's very clarified that if at all I can run two programs at the same point of time in my system, in my operating system, those operating systems will be called as multitasking. And if at all my operating system does not allow me to run two different process or programs at the same point of time, I'll be calling them a monotasking. Now, followed by the very upstandard right now present in the market operating systems are the templated operating system, which is also a cloud operating system, where a specific operating system will be available and users, as per their needs, can go forward, clone that operating system and make multiple copies of that. What is the advantage? The advantage is very, very simple. If I need to start my Java application development right now, I need to have an appropriate operating system. I need to have Java installed in that. I also need to have an IDE editor where I can go forward and write down my codes. Once I have done all these things, then only I'll be able to go forward and start my development. In case of cloud operating systems, which we also called platform as a service, there, this all applications will be coming pre-built with the operating system. So you have to just customize as per your need and start application development. Finally, at the end of the list, the most popular and talked about operating systems are mobile operating systems. Obviously, the examples we all know starts with iOS 8, Android, Windows 10, Mobile 10, and so on. There are a few more which are not right now up to the market, and because of unavailability of appropriate devices, those are going down in terms of use. For example, the BlackBerry 10 and so on. Now, what is the basic difference between a normal operating system like Linux, Windows versus mobile operating systems? Mobile operating systems and the desktop operating systems both can go side by side in terms of performing multiple tasks. However, as the hardware is very, very different in your desktop operating system and mobile devices, we might not be able to utilize all the functionalities that is available in your mobile operating systems. So the providers of mobile operating system have decided to downgrade the operating system from the desktop versions and give you some operating system which will be able to utilize all the functionalities and features which your desktop mobile operating system gives, and at the same point of time, which will also go forward and minimize your effort to use that, right? So in all desktop operating system, we don't get the touch functionalities, but however, in a modern mobile operating systems, that's a mandatory functions. So there are a few additional features, and there were some features which were taken out to make it a mobile operating system. In our course, we'll actually go forward and learn and multitasking operating system, which is also a multi-user operating system. And in upcoming sessions where you have your cloud computing course, in that particular lecture, you'll be also learning cloud computing. But that's way long, not right now. And then also, in Department of Information Technology provides a course on mobile application development. There you'll be able to go forward and learn mobile operating systems as well. But as of now, we'll be only focusing on multi-user multitasking operating systems like Windows and Linux. Now, the very next topic what also we'd like to discuss with you is open source versus free source. Now, there is a very big misconceptions about the open and the free source, free software. Let me clarify it in a single stable point to you. A free software is a software which can be downloaded free of cost. But if you need to access the source code about the software, that is not available in free softwares. However, in case of an open source software, the software can be downloaded free of cost, and you can also go forward and edit the software. For example, I have got a software where I have downloaded it free of cost, but I wanted to customize the software to put a Vishnu Universal Learning logo like this on the application, on the software. So what I have to do for that? I have to go forward and change the software code to get these things done. Can I do that? I can do that only and only if the software is an open source software, so that I can access the source code. But if the software is only a free source, but not really a open source, I cannot go forward and access that. Now, most of the cases, what we can see, most of the open source softwares are free source software. So there is a software movement in India and across the world as well, where we can go forward and find out a community of people working together to make more and more softwares available free of cost. And the software movement is called FOSS. FOSS stands for FS plus OS, where FS stands for free source and OS stands for open source. So it is liberally licensed to grant a user the right to use, copy, study, change, and improve the design through the availability of its source code. Now, the person behind Linux, that we can have the free source, or you can go forward and use a software and operating system which is very much high-end and used almost in 99% of servers in the world. It's Linux. And we are getting this opportunity to learn this tool free of cost, and these tools are available, the softwares are available, operating systems are available to us free of cost, is majorly because of one person called Linus Torvalds. Linus Torvalds is also known as inventor of Linux. However, he is the person, genuinely the person behind starting the free software movement or the Linux movement. So what is Linux? Linux is a Unix-like computer operating system assembled under FOSS, developed and distributed, and defining components of Linux in terms of Linux kernel. So whenever we get a chance to use Linux, it's basically made for providing personal computing experience for a very low cost or free of cost, where any of us wanted to learn a high-end operating system. Now, whenever we have Linux, it's a group of softwares where everybody can come forward, change some small component of that, and release their own Linux. Now, whenever you take from the original release of Linux and make it your own, that own version will be known as a flavor of Linux. Now, there are everywhere Linux flavors available, where we can identify from these logos, which are very, very popular. We have also got a chance to introduce you in the previous semesters to Ubuntu. And for our purpose, we'll be using CentOS. However, there is no difference, as all the commands gonna be same for all operating systems. The difference is people have customized that to make it more productive for specific purpose of users. Well, so how Linux is different from the other operating systems? Now, for the first instance, say you wanted to take a look into the servers which are back at the server room in your college or in your university, and you wanted to really see how does that server actually looks like. The hardware can be seen on multiple Google images, but if you really need to know how that actually works with the help of an operating system, you need to have a server-like operating system. And the server-like operating systems are all licensed and pretty much costlier. If you wanted to know it for free of cost, you can go for and use Linux, which is based on Unix and gives you a real look and feel with the help of a command line and the GUI. And you can take a look into that, how does that works. The second instance says, on a Windows operating system, you really do not have much control of scheduling a task or connecting and checking how a real hardware is working, what are the line of codes are actually needed to run a mouse or a trackpad or a touchpad, or what are the actual codes are needed to go forward and use a touch screen or something. If you wanted to learn those kind of operating system nutshell, core shells, and the principles, Linux gives you a full opportunity to do that. The last situation where you want a full customization of your operating system, apart from only changing the desktop background, obviously. If you wanted to go forward and make a lot of changes to your operating system in the coding, then once again, Linux is your best option. Now, benefit of using Linux are many, in fact. Here we'll try to compare very few with Unix, which is a previous one from Linux, and then a parallel stream, which is Windows. We'll try to figure out how does that works. Now, in case of Linux, the distributions are free, the flavors are free. You can actually download and go forward and utilize it for your purposes. You can also tell me that because of multiple piracies in India, you can also get multiple Windows operating systems free of cost. But there you are always into a risk of getting the software piracy victim, where you might not receive all the updates of the operating system, where you may not go forward and use it for the free of purposes. You can go forward and also tell me a situation that whenever you buy a new laptop or a desktop computer, you actually get the operating system free of cost, which is not at all true. Whenever you buy a hardware, like a laptop from a store, you are actually paying the licensing cost for the Microsoft. Maybe after some point of time, you may not use that operating system any longer, but you have already paid for that. So whenever you buy a laptop or a desktop device, it's always good to buy with a Linux open source edition. Many laptops provide that. And then if you really not wish to stick to the Linux operating system, you can go forward and install a different operating system, which is stable. Followed by stability is another very big issue in the other operating systems, which does not really support up the failure where your data is all lost on a power failure or something. Now, the recent Microsoft operating systems have started coming up with these facilities, but Linux had this 10 years back. Moreover, the best advantage of Linux is that Linux is very much customizable, which understand the ease of your use and the optimality of your system. So whenever you're not using many of the services, Linux actually turns down those services automatically and gets you an advantage of having a higher battery pack. Moreover, Linux has got a very less or near about zero threat to viruses, as almost all the viruses are designed for Windows operating systems, sometimes for Android as well. But Linux has got a very good security policies in-house, internally inbuilt. So that's a little tough to go forward and crack a Linux operating system and design antivirus. So once you go forward and use Linux, you're also actually saving on the cost of licensing policies for antiviruses. Moreover, we can go forward and also take an advantage of utilizing operating system, which gives you the command line and the user interface support as well. What does that mean? That means you can open your command prompt and perform all the operations. And if you're not good at commands, you can go forward and use your mouse and click around and perform your task. So that's basically a huge lot of benefits of using Linux. Now moving further, these are a list of differences which you have in your Windows and Linux operating systems. The details of those specifications are as well listed in the class note. So I'll not be elaborating all the points over here. And we'll just try to figure out what the point says in a very overview level. As mentioned, the details are all specified in the study material provided for the course. Now the first point says the full access versus no access. Full access versus no access says that to the code of the operating system, the source code of your operating system is fully accessible in Linux, and in Windows operating system, you have no access to that. Licensing freedom and licensing restrictions. You can download a Linux operating system, customize it as per your own need, and get it distributed for free of cost without worrying of any options. And if you wish to make money out of that, you can also do that. In Windows operating systems, which is not possible. We can also have free support for Linux operating systems. However, for Windows, it's a paid help desk support. Now, there are not all good in Linux as well. There is something which is also to be considered good for Windows environments. Earlier in 1970s or sometimes, whenever somebody wanted to go forward and try it out Linux operating system, they had to ensure that all the drivers and all the hardwares are compatible to each other so that they can install that. However, Windows supports a policy which is called plug and play. The moment you connect your specific hardware, Windows will automatically go forward and find out the appropriate drivers for that, and within few minutes or seconds will be up and running. There are a few more options as the centralized versus non-centralized applications. We have a huge flexibility on the operating system for Linux. Windows are very, very rigid. If you are kind of just application users where you can only do Facebook or chatting or browsing, then Windows goes as a better option for you because it has less maintainability. However, if you are a corporate type or if you wanted to do real programming or coding, Linux gives you the advantage for that. In case of Windows devices, mounting and unmounting hardware is again automatic. As I was mentioning, it's plug and play. But however, in the earlier editions of Linux, you have to execute few commands to get it up and running. But nowadays, whatever the operating systems you are getting in Linux, they all also support automated removable media as well. The last option talks about the run level, where Linux comes forward and use a multiple layered run level provided to you. And in case of a Windows environment, you have got a single layered run level, which is pretty much annoying and gives you very much less control and less understandability of your errors, what you get during your code execution. Now, here is a time for a few questions. I'll pause up you can pause up the video here try to write down those options, those answers, and get it reviewed with me in the class. Here we have our next session, Introduction to Linux Utilities, which will be actually starting up your part 1 for your unit 1.